Hey there, Dengar Stu here. Today's video is about solo scuba diving and is proudly sponsored by MarineEngine.com. In a video I did a few weeks ago where I was diving on my own, there was quite a bit of discussion in the comments about the relative merits or lack thereof of diving on your own. So I decided, yep, okay, fair enough. I don't feel the risks are particularly high for the type of diving I do, but time to find out more. So I enrolled in the SDI Solo Diver training course. I've now completed that course, so we'll go back and have a look what was involved and what I learnt. And the two training dives for this course were conducted on the wreck of the HMAS Adelaide. So I'll leave a lot of the discussion for later in the video when we're watching that dive, so you get to sort of see a few nice underwater shots instead of just staring at the talking head. All right, let's go back to 3 or 4 days ago when I started getting ready for this course. Heading out to Frog Dive in Willoughby to do the theory part of the solo diver course today. So I need to calculate my personal SAC, or my surface air consumption, which is how many litres of air I breathe per minute on the surface at 1 atmosphere. Throw a regulator on this cylinder and breathe through it for 15 minutes and divide it and get an average. So, important thing first is starting air. 171 bar. The longer we breathe through this, the more accurate the figure will be, given it's an analog gauge, etc. We'll see how well my patience holds up. So, 171 to 132. Alright, 171 bar to 132 bar in 20 minutes. The other thing we need to calculate is the capacity of the cylinder. That you can see stamped on here is 12.2 litres. So it's a 12 litre tank, but looks like it's technically 12.2. Okay, so 1 bar is very close to equal to 1 atmosphere. So we have used, so 170, if it was 130, it'd be 40 bar, so 39 bar. Or, more importantly, 39 atmospheres. So, 39 times 12, and holding the camera and a piece of paper, 12.2 equals 475.8 litres of air. Divided by 20 minutes equals 23.79, which is almost double the average. I don't know if I've got something completely wrong or not. Oh dear. Did we have a leak? Am I really that much of an air pig? Quite a few companies offer this course. There's a PADI version, SSI, but I did the SDI version. And SDI, Scuba Diving International, they were kind of the first people to offer this course, and very quickly afterwards the other agencies sort of followed suit. This is the manual that I got as a part of the course pack. And I was actually off sailing last week, so I took this with me, and there's a theory question and answer book that you need to fill out before you go to the course. So I did that on the boat, which was, you know, kind of nice. Once that was all done, it was time to head out to Frog Dive at Willoughby and do the face-to-face class session. I headed up to Frog Dive that afternoon, and they had this really cool display of old scuba gear outside the classroom. Anyway, I met John there and we went through the theory component of the course, and once that was done, we headed out to fill up my pony bottle.
Nothing in it?
Yep.
Slow and steady.
Slow and steady, nice. And is that for heat reasons or? Yeah.
So the cooler it goes in,
Yeah.
or the slower it goes in, the air won't heat up as much.
Yeah. And you'll end up with more in it in the long run.
Yeah.
And what drives your compressor? Electric, is it, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. The beast.
So we've got 2.
Yeah. All right.
So that's a normal air compressor.
Yep.
It will fill a tank when it's going in around about 3 minutes.
Yeah, right.
The cylinder. And the compressor on your right is a nitrox membrane.
Right, okay.
So we can fill straight nitrox.
Straight in, yeah.
Yeah, straight into it as well. So it acts as a spare as well. So if I have a problem with that, I can go straight on.
Got a backup
if I need to.
as well, yeah. And what about the filtration of it? Where does it draw from? In the room?
Yeah, in the room we've got a fan in the back which runs fresh air straight into here.
Straight in, yep.
In here, we've got 2 filter systems in here.
Inside the unit itself, yep.
There's the 2 tubes in there.
Yep.
So they've got 2 filter stacks there. I then run in to a third one here, which is a water separator, which takes any moisture that may be in.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Take that out. And back on the panel in there, there's another filter panel as well.
I noticed doing that surface air consumption test, how dry it is, just sitting on a boat, breathing from a reg for 20 minutes. It's like...
Yeah, well, obviously the air comes actually here through the freezer, and that actually cools the air down.
Okay.
So that's what takes a lot of moisture out of it as well.
So that's a part of the whole circuit, the freezer as well.
You don't have to run that, but just by running it, the less moisture that goes into your tank, the more your tank's going to last, and the drier it is. So by the time this gets into you, it's
pretty good. Been treated, yeah. Oh, nice one, thank you.
Okay,
So 20's 200.
that's 200 bar.
Yep.
Okay, so we run 4 banks here, so we just run a decanting section.
Okay.
Down here. So our first banks, all those banks that you saw.
Oh, right.
So we fill into them.
Yep.
So I've got 220 there. Then I'll top up from the next bank.
Okay.
And so forth, and that'll bring up to about 230, which is about the working pressure of that
And
cylinder.
that's... Yeah, it gets a little bit warmer.
Yeah. And if we can put it in a water tank.
Yeah, just
cool
sit it
down
in
a bit,
water.
yeah. And then I can then go up and higher, so I can actually fill up to 300 bar cylinders.
Right, wow, okay.
So
Oh, so the different banks are increasing pressure in them, or just...
They'll all hold 300 bar.
Oh, okay, yep.
And this is, I regulate that by how much I turn that on.
Right, okay.
So as this goes up, all right, I can fill this one to 230.
Yep.
Bang.
Done.
That's it. But I've got those. I run. So I've got more banks than behind here.
Yeah.
All in there. These are my nitrox banks here. Mm-hmm. And then at the moment I've got helium here and oxygen as well with the guys that are doing their trimix course.
Yeah,
at the moment,
yeah.
so.
Oh, okay, yeah. Got some people coming through.
Yeah. Busy weekend, this one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, a straight drop off halfway through.
Oh, yeah, right, a wall there. Yeah, nice.
The good thing about this against your local pool is you need to equalise.
Yep, right.
You go down to your local swim centre.
Yeah.
You're in a metre, 1.2 metres water.
You don't feel the pressure.
You don't feel it, so you don't know what it's like when you're in the ocean.
Yep.
Sitting at the bottom here, you have to equalise.
Yep.
So people get a lot more used to it. By the time they get in the ocean, they know what the feeling is like, and they know that they've got to do it.
Yeah, know what to expect. Yeah.
On a Saturday, the guys are in here for maybe 6 or 7 hours.
Yeah, and if you're getting too cold, you're not going to learn.
Yeah. So this way,
Yeah.
the instructors keep coming back then.
Yeah. I think I might do all my diving in here from now on then. Sounds nice.
Just need some more fish.
Yeah, right, yeah. A few more treasure chests.
While I was at Frog Dive, I also went through all my equipment with John, the instructor there, identified what I had, what I was missing, and he also helped me set up the equipment that I did have so we were ready for those training dives on the Sunday. That was really valuable time for me because this is new equipment that I'm not familiar with at all. It's equipment that I'm required to carry above the standard buddy system diving I've done in the past, and there's definitely a bit of a learning curve with it. Specifically, that's the SMB, the surface marker buoy that you inflate, a reel that allows you to deploy that from the bottom remotely rather than getting to the surface and inflating it, the safety sausage they kind of call them, normally just on the surface, to let perhaps a dive boat see you if you've drifted away. That's kind of the idea of them normally. Then there's also the whole pony bottle setup, your stage bottle that's just a completely redundant air supply that you take on a solo dive. The other bit of equipment I had to get was a new slate I'd lost, but also a spare mask. The mask I normally use, with the GoPro mount on it, has these kind of hard sides, and it's, you know, fine, it's a good mask, but it's relatively bulky. With solo diving, you're required to carry a spare mask, and I've got to say, lots that you learn on this course, even if you never dive on your own, are things that I think I would bring into my buddy system diving as well. So one of those is carrying a spare mask. If you happen to have the strap break and the suction's not enough on the mask and you lose it, maybe you don't notice an obstruction, it just gets ripped off, and by the time you turn around, because of poor viz or strong current, it's gone. You know, you've got one you can pull out and put on. The one I got from John is this one. It is made by, need my glasses. I actually probably need to look at getting prescription scuba masks, to be honest with you, but anyway. And longer arms. Hyperion, maybe? You can see there, but the thing about this mask is it folds completely flat. Because of that, it fits in the pocket of your BCD really well as a backup. And to be honest with you, it's really comfortable to wear as well. So I'm really happy I've got this now. I ended up needing it. Spoiler alert. The other thing we did is set up another smaller knife onto the low pressure inflator for my BCD. The holder for this knife is attached to the hose and you can release it quite easily. The good thing about that is sometimes if you were trapped, you can't necessarily reach your leg. So having one up high, I think works out pretty well. I think the only thing that really worries me diving is entanglement, entrapment. I think having one up here, one low, and I've still got the EMT scissors, shears, whatever you want to call them, in the BCD pocket as well. So really I've got 3 ways of cutting any sort of rope, fishing line, netting that you might be, you know, caught up in. All right, once the theory part was over, which I really enjoyed, I actually learned a lot of stuff from that course, highly recommend it. Then I headed home to get all this gear ready to go out diving the next morning. This is the pony bottle I'm taking on the dive tomorrow as a redundant air supply, but the rigs for it don't have a submersible pressure gauge or an SPG. I'm actually doing this in the little lab space I use for conserving the metal detecting fines, because it's probably a lot cleaner than the workshop when it comes to getting dirt and things in the regs. So this is the SPG that came off the scuba regs that Paul had before I put the dive computer on. So I figure we just use this. We'll just swap it for a much shorter hose and make this our main SPG for the pony bottle. All right, let's see if we can get it out of the moulding. All right, let's just separate these with a 12 and a 14 mil. Now, we have a new, not the other one's very old, a new swivel and new O-rings. Swivel at the gauge end. I think we're in business. Swivels works alright, back in the casing. First stage regs have high pressure and low pressure ports. You need high pressure for a gauge because you're getting the full pressure of the cylinder. So we're popping it in there. This turned out to be a Imperial Allen key, I think. So I found a flathead that fit in. Yeah, all class, I know. Kind of feel like maybe it's a bit too short. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. I guess we could strap it along here. Let's pop it on the cylinder. Listen for leaks. Maybe even submerge it and look for bubbles. Alright, 225. I think we'll call that good to go. The following day, the weather was great for the training dives, so I'll show you what we saw and the skills I had to practice.
Okay. You're going to regroup at 5 metres, okay?
Yep.
although by definition not really a solo diver skill, the first thing John and I did at 5 metres was both spin right around so the other person could check you for any sort of leaks coming out, any bubbles coming out of your equipment. Tracking your actual air consumption against your dive plan is a big part of the course. So I record my remaining air and dive time at various waypoints along the way. The wreck we're on is the HMAS Adelaide, which is a decommissioned frigate. It's about 138 metres long, and it was scuttled here in 2011 to make an artificial reef. Because the Adelaide was planned to be a dive site from before it was scuttled, it was completely prepared for that. So there are openings cut into the side, so when you're inside you can always see your way out. You know, it's practically impossible to get lost inside the wreck. Oh, and in case you're wondering, the whole site's a fish reserve. There's no fishing of any type allowed, hence the larger fish that stay in residence. All non-technical recreational diving requires you to stay within no decompression limits, meaning that you haven't built up enough nitrogen in your bloodstream that you're required to do long, compulsory decompression stops. Having said that, it's best practice to do these, what they call safety stops, just to be on the safe side, as the name suggests. So we did 3 minutes at 6 metres and then 3 minutes at 3 metres. On the way back to the harbour after the first dive, John and I jumped out of the boat before we got all the way in so that I could practice deploying the submersible marker buoy in shallower water. All these clips gave my broken thumb a bit of a workout, but, I managed it all in the end.
Get that rig in, get that on there all the way. Let's go, let's go.
All right.
Come on, there's big swell coming. Swell coming. It's annoying now. It's always going to be horrible. You need to do this. Bit more, come on. Alright.
Stand up, you bastard. There we go.
Alright, now just keep moving in.
All right.
You want that up like that the whole way in.
Huh? The other reason you get dropped off in the harbour on the way back is because as a part of the course you need to do a surface swim with your full gear on for 200 metres, so that's how we got back to shore. Of course, during this swim I managed to drop my mask that had the GoPro on it still recording, and I didn't realise I'd lost it till I got to shore, so I used my spare mask to go looking for it. Before I found it, a German gentleman, I think German anyway, was out there with his son, and he found it and gave it back to me, so he's my new superhero. Not long after all that happened, we jumped back in the boat, headed out there to do the second dive. Another skill I had to demonstrate on the course was unclipping your pony bottle. Then you sort of present it to John and then clip it back on, saying that I'm going to, just practice many more times in the future. Here we head down to the deepest we went in the dive, which was about 30 metres. The inside of the boat actually goes down below the seabed, so it can be deceptive how deep you're going. This is one of 3 or 4 moorings that are attached to the boat. Some of them you can actually ring and book if you've got your own boat and you want to go diving here, which is kind of cool. I think I'll do that in the future. On this second dive, I had to deploy the SMB from deeper down. We did it from the top of the mast of the boat. There's several different types of submersible marker buoy in the way they're inflated. Some of them actually have a valve on it that you can inflate from a low pressure hose, so I might experiment with that style as well down the track. It's the trouble when you're playing with new equipment, you really, haven't tried enough different types to know what's going to work for you.
The final exercise we did on this dive was to do the final 2 safety stops from the pony bottle that I had, the stage bottle. And this is where things went a bit pear-shaped for me due to lack of familiarity and lack of experience. As John and I had discussed on the surface, at 6 metres I would pull the reg out from its bindings, turn the valve on to open the pony bottle and breathe from that to do the 2 safety stops. What I did was manage to, instead of turning the valve to open the bottle, I turned the other black knob and disconnected the first stage regulator from the bottle. But it's fine. You look at the gauge and you go, no air. That's odd. You look down, you go, oh, you idiot, But reconnected it, opened the bottle, and it worked perfectly. And that was interesting for me to know that. I then breathed from it for the 2 safety stops. No dramas, that was sort of interesting to know. John is going to service the first stage because they're not supposed to get water in them, so that's, just needs to be done. He said, look, if it was fresh water, I wouldn't worry so much, but because it's salt water, let's just open it up, clean it out, ready to go, What that highlights is something that the book talks about, and that's that having done the training and knowing what new equipment you should have and what new techniques you should know isn't enough. You need to now go and practice that in your own time until you've got a muscle memory. You would never make that mistake, it's just so second nature to you. The same way you know what side's your indicator, what side's your windscreen wiper or whatever. You have to be able to do these things without thinking, without looking. So that's my challenge over the next, month or so. Every time I go for a dive, change to my pony bottle without looking, just do it. Deploy the SMB from the bottom. Just do it every dive you go on. Do it at the very end of the dive when you finish, whatever. But make sure you practice. Understanding it theoretically isn't going to give you the muscle memory you need. Now, if you're still watching this video, chances are you're half interested in the topic. So what I'll do is I'll quickly show you how I think about solo diving in my mind. This isn't an attempt to convince you that you should be doing it. I'm simply saying this is the thought process I go through when I decide to do something like this. Your skill set, your environment, your tolerance for risk, all this sort of thing is going to be wildly different from mine, and you need to make those decisions for yourself. But I'll show you what I think.
What we've got here is a short list of some of the things that can go wrong on a scuba dive. Not all of them, but just a representative sample, shall we say. So some of these things can only happen on a certain type of dive. So by lost, I'm talking about you're inside a wreck, you can't find your way out before you run out of air, you're inside a cave system, that kind of thing. Going too deep or too long refers to a dive where you've stayed down long enough or you've gone deep enough that you don't have enough breathing gas with you to do the required decompression stops. Washed away from the boat, you're offshore, you're in a big sea, strong current, and suddenly you're a million miles from the boat and, someone needs to come and get you. Other things, just like running out of air, having a piece of equipment fail, you just pass out, you get entangled in a net, a rope, fishing line, or you're out and out, just have a sudden heart attack. Now, going solo diving doesn't mean you just do all dives solo. You've got choice, So you might say, you know what, I'm not going to solo dive inside a wreck. I'm not going to do a deep dive solo. I'm not going to do an offshore dive solo. So straight away you're saying the only things that can go wrong on my solo dive are a subset of those things. Then you've got to look at the things that your buddy can help you with. Heart attack, for example, chances are if you have a sudden catastrophic heart attack, having a buddy with you isn't actually going to help. So let's say the buddy could help with all these things still, right round to here. Then you go, right, what sort of training do I have? Suddenly I'm very, very vigilant about running out of air. That's not going to happen. I've got a plan. I confirm my plan regularly. I'm not going to lose track. Equipment failure happens, but you've got spare equipment. You've got a completely redundant air supply with you. You've got a spare mask, So you go, look, I can have any piece of equipment fail and I can still get to the surface. I'm tangled in a net, but I've got 2 knives and scissors with me. I can get myself out. At the absolute worst case scenario, because I'm not doing a deep dive, I can ditch all my gear and swim to the surface on one breath. You can swim to the surface from 10 meters, no problem. In fact, you do that on your beginner's course. The very first course you do an ascent on a single breath from 10 meters. So you've got every chance of getting yourself out, particularly given you've got air that's not a part of your dive plan. You've got your pony bottle. So you will always have time, particularly because you're shallow, you're not breathing as much air, you'll have time to sort this problem out. It would have to be a very odd situation where you couldn't get yourself out of this. Given that you're shallow, you can ditch your gear and you've got plenty of cutting implements with you. Passed out is probably the one where your buddy can help you. You got your reg in your mouth, you're breathing, but you're unconscious. All of this, of course, assumes you've got a good buddy who's paying attention, checking on you, not just swimming ahead and all you ever see is their fins. So even with a buddy, this might not pan out. Certainly doesn't pan out in poor visibility. Buddy system falls down terribly in bad visibility. I guess what I'm trying to say all up is that when I look at all the risks, I see that this is really what I'm risking. All this other stuff I can actually take care of by the choice of dive I do, the equipment I take, and the training I do.
This is purely my personal thinking. It's not me trying to convince you that you will be okay when you go solo diving, because you might not be okay if you go diving with a buddy, crossing a street, whatever. You need to kind of do your own risk analysis. This is purely the one I've done. So when people sort of say, you're crazy, you're foolish, you're taking all these risks, I have thought about it, I really have. We could obviously talk about this till the cows come home. There's a lot of opinions about it. Because there are so many opinions about this particular topic, we'll just sort of continue on in the comments section in the, civilized adult way that people do on the internet. And, interested to hear what people think. This week I'm finally getting around to pulling the Detroit out of Renko and getting it up to Adrian's workshop. I'm actually really looking forward to that now, just getting it squared away, you know, so that is this week's goal finally. Also, don't forget that this Sunday at 9 AM Sydney time, we've got a live stream for the Patreon, so if you're coming along to that, I'll see you there. Otherwise, I'll catch you next week. All right, take care. Bye.
I'm going diving, so I'm up before you guys for once. Normally you're up first. Come on, have some breakfast. You gonna get up, Daffy? Here we go. All right, wish me luck. See you when I get back. It's not ever that I come home and find you up on the bench. You've been chased. It's all right, Daffy. You've been spooked, haven't you? It's okay. Daffy's obviously been chased.
Oh, what you doing there?
You get scared, don't you, Daffy?
Oh, you just come off the nest and now you're getting chased around.
Yeah.
At least the colours come back.
Yeah, she's getting darker again, isn't she? All right, Daffy. Is that
She's lost a bit of weight.
your safe spot, is it? All right, hang on, I'll grab you. Time to say goodbye to all those crazy people who think chickens can't be pets. What do you reckon? I think you do a pretty good job.